Hey guys, tonight we're trudging back in time across mud-caked roads and through the damp fog of 16th century England for a journey your nose won't soon forget. We're spending the night in a Tudor inn, not the kind you see in carefully restored tourist villages with smiling hosts and lavender on the pillows. No, this is the real thing. Slumped timber walls, smoke-thick air, and a bed you'll wish had fewer occupants. You'll hear snoring through paper-thin walls, dodging chamber pots and open fires along the way. You'll smell boiled meat and feet in equal measure. And if you're very lucky, you might even sleep. Though statistically, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it right now where you are? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive as the sun bleeds into the horizon, soft orange drowned quickly by gray. The road is little more than churned muck, now edged by hedges full of cold wind and judgmental crows. Up ahead, the inn crouches beneath a sagging thatch roof, its walls leaning slightly like they're conspiring to keep secrets. The wooden sign swings on one chain. It might say something once. Now it just creaks. Your boots squelch deeper with every step into the yard. The ground here is a rich tapestry of horse droppings, spilled ale, and something green that glows faintly in the right angle of torchlight. You try not to think about it. You try not to smell it, but the smell finds you first. It's thick, damp, animal, like boiled hay and unwashed ambition. The scent of horses, yes, but also of onions, ale, and the distinct tang of something wet, rotting slowly under straw. You dodge a puddle, then another. Then you realize the puddles are not the problem. The problem is what's floating in them. A stable hand scurries past, hauling a bundle of hay and a look of existential despair. You catch a flash of his teeth, either a grimace or a warning. A cart blocks the path near the door. The mule is asleep standing. The driver less so, slumped back against the wheel hat, tilted low, snoring like a drowning goose. You glance upward. One of the windows flickers with candlelight. Behind the glass, a shadow moves. Maybe it's your host. Maybe it's someone you'll soon be sleeping beside. Historians still argue whether inns at this time were true sanctuaries for travelers, or just the safest available option when dying in a ditch lost its charm. Tonight you'll find out firsthand. You step forward. The door looms. Someone inside is laughing. Someone else is coughing like the Black Death never left. And the scent, that rich cocktail of Tudor survival, gets stronger the closer you get. You raise a hand to knock. Then you don't. You just push the door and walk in. The door groans open with the full theatrical flair of a bored ghost. It drags across the uneven stone threshold, scraping loudly, announcing your arrival, whether you want it to or not. The moment it swings wide enough to let you in, the smell punches you in the lungs. It's not one smell. It's a mob of them, layered, historical, aggressively specific. Wood smoke dominates, thick and sour from green logs that hiss in protest as they burn. Beneath that, the unmistakable reek of wet wool and damp straw. There's also the acid bite of old ale, something stewing in the kitchen that might once have been meat, and a faint background hum of unwashed socks. You're not even 2 steps in when your eyes begin to water. Someone sneezes to your right, so violently their tankard wobbles. They don't excuse themselves. No one flinches. In this room, sneezing is as unremarkable as breathing, possibly more frequent. The rushes on the floor crunch beneath your boots. They're supposed to be fresh laid to absorb spills and smells. These are not fresh. They're flattened into a mat of broken reeds, old crumbs and substances better left unlisted. You scan the room. There are maybe 24 people crammed into the main hall. Some sit at long, uneven tables. Others lean against walls. One man is fully asleep near the hearth face, planted on a platter that still holds half a turnip. The fireplace roars at the far end, but the warmth doesn't reach you yet. What does reach you is the smoke curling in lazy loops toward the low ceiling. It collects up there in a fog, waiting to sting eyes and soak into cloaks. Historians agree. Tudor inns were warm, but not in the ways you wanted. They were warm with breath, with body heat, with spilled stew and boiled beer. The fire helped, yes, but it also shared its smoke with enthusiasm. You move forward. A woman pushes past with a tray of mugs sloshing foam onto your arm. She doesn't stop. The ale smells faintly of yeast sweat and a barnyard afterthought. You consider licking it off. You choose not to. Someone else passes you, going the other way, a man with a pipe clamped between his teeth and a chicken under one arm. He says nothing. You nod politely. The chicken glares at you. At a far table, a group of men shout at one another over dice. One of them pounds the table and laughs so hard he nearly falls off the bench. His laughter turns into a coughing fit, which turns into a belch. He seems pleased. Quirky note. It's said that in many Tudor inns, laughter and illness often overlapped. With the average life expectancy hovering around, hopefully not this week, most people celebrated while they could, loudly. You edge closer to the hearth. The rushes here are warmer, the air marginally less hostile. A few cloaks hang nearby drying. They drip slowly onto the floor. One of them smells like pickled eggs. Possibly intentional? The man by the fire lifts his face from his plate, blinking. There's a turnip imprint on his cheek. He stares at you confused, then slumps back down. You take a seat on the edge of a bench that looks like it's held together by willpower and spilled gravy. You set down your pack. Your cloak sighs. The room is still noisy. The fire pops. Someone laughs again. Someone curses. The sound of clattering bowls drifts in from the kitchen behind a lopsided curtain. You rub your eyes. They sting. And you realize this is only the beginning. You're in now, and the inn isn't finished with you. You stay seated motionless for a moment, hoping the bench beneath you doesn't collapse. It's not quite level, and one of the legs has been repaired with what looks like a soup bone. You shift slightly. It creaks, loudly. You freeze. Then mercifully, the sound is drowned out by a fresh round of shouting from the table near the hearth. Someone has apparently lost a bet. The forfeit involves singing. Badly. A voice bold, tuneless, and full of ale rises above the chatter. My mother wore no boots at all. She danced in sheep and shame. The lyrics continue. You try not to listen. You fail. The refrain will now live in your brain forever. You glance around. Everyone else seems entirely unbothered by the impromptu performance. One man joins in. Another slaps the table in time. Someone throws a crust of bread at the singer, who catches it mid-verse and eats it without missing a beat. The barmaid passes again, wielding a tray like a shield. She calls out names you don't recognize, and thuds mugs down with the energy of someone very close to snapping. Her hands are red from the cold, her hair tied back with a greasy ribbon, and her apron could legally be considered a map of last week's meals. She catches your eye and stops. New? She asks. You nod. Sleepin' or drinkin'? You hesitate. Both, you say. She squints. We'll see. Then she moves on, disappearing behind a pillar of hanging cloaks. Historians still argue whether Tudor barmaids were underpaid saints or barely contained storm fronts. This one leans toward both. You suspect she could kill a rat with one glance and still remember everyone's tab. You notice the walls now. Close-set beams roughly hewn and blackened by years of smoke. The plaster between them is cracked, patched, and peppered with old nails. There's a smear of something near your shoulder. You decide not to investigate. The air is somehow both warm and damp, like a laundry room filled with livestock. Your clothes are already absorbing it, along with every other smell in the room. You'll carry this night with you long after it ends. Possibly forever. A dog ambles past. Mangy, one-eye, cloudy tail twitching as it sniffs boots and low-hanging cloaks. It pauses at your pack, snorts, then moves on. You don't take it personally. A fresh wave of smoke curls into your face from the hearth. You cough. The singer belches in response. The food arrives. Not yours yet, but you smell it before you see it. Onions, turnips, and a heavy waft of something meaty. A boy no older than 10 shuffles by carrying a wooden bowl larger than his head. Steam pours from it in thick coils. You don't know what's inside. Neither does he. Quirky detail. Tudor inns often served pottage, a stew of whatever was available, simmered endlessly. Ingredients changed daily, hourly, sometimes mid-ladle. It wasn't about flavor. It was about calories. Your stomach grumbles, loudly. The man next to you glances over and slides a bit farther away on the bench. You try to look harmless. You fail. A thin woman with a lute enters from the side door and begins to strum. She doesn't sing, just plays. The chords are slow, slightly off-key, but oddly soothing. Her fingers are quick, her eyes distant. She could be anywhere. But she's here. With you? With all of this? The crowd quiets slightly. Someone claps once awkwardly. No one joins in. The clapper drinks faster to recover. The barmaid returns. She slams a mug down in front of you. 3 pennies, she says. You hand over the coin. She looks at it, bites it, then nods. The mug smells like it's been washed. Once, in a previous dynasty, the ale inside fizzes faintly. It's warm, sour, with the aftertaste of apples and something earthy. You sip. It's not the worst thing that's happened to you tonight. You lean back just a little, resting against the uneven wall. The sounds swirl around you. Lute laughter, coughing mugs on wood. The smells settle in like relatives who've overstayed their welcome. The heat from the fire reaches your knees now. You start to feel almost calm. Until someone shouts, "He took my purse," and a stool flies across the room. The stool doesn't so much fly as it tumbles spinning end over end until it lands with a splintery crash near the hearth. A dog yelps. Someone gasps. The lute player pauses, then resumes as if this sort of thing happens every third song. You freeze half-raised from your bench, unsure if you're meant to duck or cheer. Across the room, a man in a patched green jerkin stands with his fists clenched and a wild look in his eye. I know it was him. He shouts, pointing a shaking finger at a beardless youth who, in fairness, looks entirely capable of theft mischief or falling asleep mid-crime. The accused raises both hands. I swear I was asleep. You're mad. That's what you said last time. The older man roars. There's a standoff now. 2 men, one angry and one nervous, both smelling faintly of pickled cabbage. Everyone else leans back just slightly, tankards held with casual interest. No one seems surprised. You suspect this is just Act 2 of a long-running drama. The innkeeper finally trudges over from the kitchen curtain, rubbing his eyes and sighing deeply. He says nothing. He just looks at the 2 men, then at the stool in pieces. Fine, he mutters. Both of you sleep in the stable. The younger man looks relieved. The older one scowls but doesn't argue. The innkeeper kicks one of the stool legs aside and says to no one in particular, "Someone fetch more rushes before the blood soaks through." And just like that, the excitement is over. The mood resets like a candle stub being relit. People resume drinking. The dog creeps back out. The lute continues. You sit again slowly, heart thumping with delayed adrenaline. Your ale is still warm. You sip it anyway. Historians still debate whether Tudor inns were more dangerous than the roads that led to them. The prevailing theory: they were equally dangerous, but one offered stew and a roof, and the occasional brawl with narrative potential. The barmaid returns this time with a wooden bowl. It's handed to you without ceremony. Steam rises in lazy spirals. Inside is a sludge-colored stew of indeterminate origin. A potato floats in it, possibly, or a knuckle. You stir it with the provided spoon, which is only slightly warped and mostly clean. The smell rising from the bowl is strong. Onion, turnip, something with bones, and a surprise note of cinnamon. Quirky fact: spices like cinnamon and cloves were used even in the most humble dishes, not for flavor, but to mask the age of the meat. If it tastes vaguely like the holidays and also like socks, that's just Tudor seasoning. You take a bite. It's warm. Texture, inconsistent. Temperature, uneven. Flavor, aggressively adequate. You chew, swallow, chew again. The man beside you glances at your bowl and says, "Don't eat the gray bits. That's usually string." You thank him. He nods. Or lung. You thank him less enthusiastically. The rushes beneath your feet shift slightly. You glance down. The floor seems to move. Just a little, probably rats. You decide to finish your stew quickly. The lute player stops mid-song and mumbles something about taking the night air. No one acknowledges her departure. She slips out the door like a roomer leaving a room. You scrape the bowl clean, mostly because you're still hungry, mostly because you want to be done. You set it aside. Someone burps behind you. Someone else claps in appreciation. The fire pops. A log shifts, sending a cloud of sparks into the hearth. A man jumps. A woman laughs. The barmaid rolls her eyes and collects empty bowls like a one-woman parade of fatigue. You lean back again. Your stomach is full. Sort of. The heat finally reaches your back, and for a moment you feel not comfortable but suspended, in something close to stillness, between chaos and collapse. Then the innkeeper bellows rooms, and you realize it's time. Time to climb the stairs. Time to discover where and with whom you'll sleep. The moment the innkeeper shouts rooms, the atmosphere shifts not dramatically, but like a tavern-sized exhale. Half the guests pretend they didn't hear it. The other half begin gathering their cloaks, draining mugs and lurching toward the stairs like sheep, resigning themselves to a questionable shearing. You watch them go, not rushing, mostly because you're still digesting the stew, or trying to convince your body it's digestible. The fire crackles behind you. Someone snores into their tankard. Another guest is loudly bartering for a blanket, offering what sounds like a spoon and half a poem. The barmaid reappears beside your table towel, slung over one shoulder like a weapon of war. You got a bed? You nod, unsure if you're lying. She squints. Third door on the left, up the stairs. Don't open the second. Trust me. You want to ask why? You don't. She vanishes again into the swirl of cloaks and curses. Historians still argue whether Tudor inns assigned rooms with logic or simply waved guests toward whatever space wasn't already on fire. Some even shared mattresses with strangers' livestock, or both. You mentally prepare for anything from straw pallets to aggressive hens. You gather your pack and rise slowly. The rushes cling to your boots like they've grown fond of you. The staircase looms ahead, narrow, uneven, and possibly tilted. You place your hand on the wall for balance. It's sticky. You remove your hand. You immediately regret everything. The first step creaks under your foot with the energy of a medieval confession. You shift your weight to the side. Creaks again, louder. The man in front of you, an elderly fellow clutching what might be a loaf of bread or a wrapped ferret, turns slightly. Don't step on the third stair, he whispers, eyes wide. You nod solemnly. Got it. You skip the third stair. You're not sure why. But some truths don't require footnotes. As you climb, the sounds from below muffle into a low thrum. Clinking mugs, muffled laughter, and the occasional hiccup that sounds like it might carry meaning in another language. The air grows thicker, warmer, and yet somehow darker. The candles along the wall are stubby and guttering, their holders dripping wax like melting opinions. Halfway up, you pass a door ajar. Inside, a woman laughs. A man says not again with deep despair. The door closes itself. You keep walking. At the landing, you're greeted by a chicken. It sits dead center on the rushes, feathers slightly ruffled, staring at you like you've interrupted something sacred. You sidestep. It doesn't move. Respect. You glance around. This hallway is a different world, narrow, hushed, warped by time and moisture. The walls tilt in sympathetic exhaustion. The rushes underfoot are older, darker, worn to threads. A man steps out of a room just ahead of you. He's barefoot, carrying a candle and wearing only a shirt. He looks at you with eyes that have seen too much. Then he turns and walks straight into a wall. You don't help. You reach the third door on the left. Just as promised. You hesitate. Behind you, the second door, the forbidden one. It's closed. For now. You raise your hand to knock. Then remember, no one's expecting you. You try the latch. It sticks. Then it gives. The door opens with a whimper, and you step inside. Quirky fact. Many Tudor inns didn't number rooms. They were identified by odd features. The one with the slanted beam, the room with the goat. Or, more ominously, not the second door. You wonder what yours will be remembered for. The room is dark. The air is stale, but it's yours. For now, whatever that means. The room welcomes you in the same way a root cellar might. Quiet, cold, and holding a smell that suggests something once died here, then politely left its essence behind. You stand just inside the door, letting your eyes adjust. There's a candle stub on a rickety shelf. You fumble for flint, strike a spark, and light it. A flickering yellow glow spreads across the space. It's small. No smaller than small. The kind of room you could describe with a shrug. One bed. One window, warped glass set deep into the wall like it's hiding from the outside world. The ceiling slants downward toward the back corner, and a beam runs diagonally overhead, low enough to introduce itself to your forehead, if you're not careful. The bed, or what pretends to be one, sits crooked along the far wall. Its legs are uneven, its frame groans in the candlelight, and the straw-filled mattress is lumpy in all the wrong places. A single blanket lies folded at the foot. You poke it with your candle. It doesn't bite. You set your pack down with a sigh. Then you hear it, a wet, dragging snore. You freeze, because there already nestled into the left side of the mattress is a man, middle-aged, bearded, wearing socks that have betrayed him long ago. He's tucked in blanket up to his chin, mouth open wide enough to catch passing moths. He snorts again, then smacks his lips. He is, for all intents and purposes, asleep, and also, unfortunately, your bedmate. Historians agree. Shared sleeping arrangements in Tudor inns were standard, especially for the frugal or the unlucky. Beds were expensive. Privacy was a fantasy. The term stranger meant nothing if both of you snored and didn't steal the covers. You sigh. Of course he's already taken the good side of the bed, the side facing the fireless hearth, the one where the mattress sags slightly less. You sit on the edge of your assigned half. The straw crackles beneath you like old paper. The mattress smells faintly of feet and stew, possibly the same stew you ate earlier. You bounce once experimentally. The bed responds by tilting toward the man beside you. He doesn't stir. You peel off your boots. Slowly, one squeaks in protest. You remove your cloak and fold it for a makeshift pillow. It's damp. You lie down anyway. The ceiling stares back at you, its beams mottled with soot and old spider webs. The flickering candle makes the shadows above dance. You pull the blanket up to your chin, inhale, and instantly regret it. Then movement. The man next to you shifts in his sleep, turning to face you. You turn away. He mutters something. You catch the word Marjorie. You decide you don't want to know. Quirky note. Some travelers used belts to tie themselves to their side of the bed, ensuring they wouldn't roll into their bunkmate mid-dream. You have no belt. You have only willpower and one hand pressed against the wall to anchor you in place. The straw beneath you rustles. So does something inside the straw? You hold still. Then faintly, scritch, scritch, scritch. You tell yourself it's just a beetle, or a piece of dry straw shifting with your weight, or a memory, but now your ankle itches. You try not to think about it. Your roommate lets out a long sigh. His breath smells like onions and warm regret. You roll slightly closer to the wall. You touch it. It's cold, slightly tacky. The candle flickers low. Your eyes begin to sting, and then through the thin walls you hear it. A thud, a muttered curse, a laugh, a moan. Someone next door is having an experience. Whether joyful or painful is unclear. You close your eyes. You pretend you're in a forest, or a barn, or floating in space. Anything but here. The bed creaks. The wall whispers. The straw twitches, and the inn begins to settle around you for the night. You're not asleep. Not yet, but you're trying. Sleep does not arrive like a warm embrace. It arrives like a passive-aggressive houseguest, late, loud, and with opinions about your mattress. You lie there, eyes closed, hoping that if you pretend hard enough, unconsciousness will find you out of pity. Instead, the snoring intensifies. Your roommate's respiratory system is on a journey of its own. First, a soft nasal whimper, then a guttural growl that seems to come from deep within the bed frame. It builds cycles and resets each time, louder, wetter, more committed to the bit. You try turning onto your side. The straw pokes your ribs like a judgmental ant. You flip the other way. Now you're face to face with the man. You swear he smiles in his sleep. You turn back toward the wall, and that's when you hear it. Scritch. Pause. Scritch, scritch. It's not in the straw this time. It's in the wall, or just beyond it. Moving, methodical, hungry. Historians still debate the scale of rat infestation in Tudor inns. But based on current audio evidence, you'd rate it somewhere between plague herald and roommate with claws. You whisper no. The sound continues. You tug the blanket up to your chin. It's itchy, but so is terror. Through the floorboards, faint music drifts upward, a single lute string lazily plucked. Someone downstairs has refused to sleep, or refused to stop drinking. Possibly both. From another room comes a groan. A chair scrapes. A child cries briefly, then goes silent. Sleep seems further away now. The window across the room lets in no moonlight, just condensation and the muffled sigh of wind. You imagine you're at sea, a ship cabin, salt on the air. The rocking is only the mattress shifting under the weight of someone else's dream. Then thump. You sit bolt upright. It wasn't your room. It was the one next door. The second door. The one you were warned not to open. You stare at the wall separating you from it. It's thin enough to show a hairline crack near the ceiling. Through it you see nothing, but you feel something. You lie back down slowly, heart pounding in your neck. The man beside you grunts in his sleep, turns onto his back, and lets out a belch so intense it could be carbon dated. The room smells briefly of cabbage. You weigh your options. Option 1, try to sleep through this. Option 2, give up. Go downstairs and ask the barmaid for a chair by the hearth and another bowl of existential stew. Option 3, open the second door. You choose none. You stay put. Quirky fact, Tudor inns were notorious for haunted rooms, or at least rooms with reputations. The second door might house a drunk, a priest with secrets, a goat with vengeance issues. You're not ready to find out. The snoring resumes. Your eyes begin to sting again. And then miraculously your limbs go heavy. Your breath slows. The straw pokes you less often. The rats take a break. The wind softens. And you drift, not fully asleep, but finally, not awake. You're not sure how long you sleep, only that you wake to the sound of someone trying very hard not to make noise and failing spectacularly. The floorboards creak with every sneaky step, each one louder than the last. It's the sonic equivalent of tiptoeing in wooden clogs while juggling bells. You crack one eye open. A silhouette stands near the window, illuminated faintly by early dawn light, or perhaps just the inn's shared candle guttering its last. It's the man you share the bed with. He's dressing in the dark, which is generous considering how little light he seems to need to find his socks by smell alone. He doesn't see you're awake. He mutters to himself. Something about Marjorie's debt and hiding the duck. You're alarmed, but also intrigued. You don't ask. Historians still debate whether Tudor men were more prone to sleep-talking or simply used the dark hours to rehearse their secrets aloud. Either way, your bedmate now seems fully engaged in what might be a legal deposition or an elaborate recipe. You pretend to snore. He finally gathers his things and stumbles out of the room with the soft slam of someone who meant to be gentle but forgot at the last second. You sit up. The bed is now yours alone and immediately becomes more comfortable. Less straw in the wrong places. Less cabbage in the air. A personal triumph, albeit temporary. You stand, stretch, and immediately bang your head on the diagonal ceiling beam. It's the kind of pain that flashes stars across your vision and makes you question your life choices going back to infancy. You mutter something impolite. The beam does not apologize. You shuffle to the tiny window, wiping away a smear of condensation. Outside, the street glistens overnight rain, maybe. The inn yard is quiet. A cart creaks somewhere nearby. The morning is gray, half-formed, uncertain. Quirky detail. Tudor glass was rarely clear. More ripple than window, more suggestion than transparency. The world outside looks wobbly, like a dream you don't fully trust. You dress as quickly as the cold allows. Your cloak is still damp. Your boots are stiff. You wonder if the straw in your mattress has fused to your socks. It probably has. There's no wash basin. Just a chipped jug in the corner with a note of frost on the rim. You pour a bit into your palm. It's glacial. You splash your face anyway. Now you're awake. Your stomach grumbles. It's time to face breakfast, whatever that might be. You grab your pack and descend the stairs one cautious step at a time, skipping the infamous third stair with the grace of someone who now believes in floorboard curses. The main hall is changed. Quieter. Dimmer? less chaotic but still thick with smells. The fire is down to embers. A few souls huddle near it, cradling mugs and nursing last night's decisions. The barmaid is already awake. She looks exactly the same apron, unchanged expression, still hovering between tired and vaguely murderous. She sees you, nods toward a table, and grunts pottage or bread. You pause. Both. She raises one eyebrow, scribbles something on a slate, and vanishes behind the curtain. You sit. Your spot from last night feels smaller now. The bench sags deeper. The table leans slightly to the left. A puddle from someone's overturned drink glistens beside your elbow. You avoid it with expert Tudor elegance. You look around. A man in the corner is gently humming. Another picks crumbs from his beard with the intensity of a monk translating scripture. Near the hearth, a woman braids her hair while scolding a child. You're not sure belongs to her. The place feels older this morning, not just from the architecture, from the air. The barmaid reappears, slaps down a wooden plate, and mutters, "Bread. Pottage is not ready." You nod. The bread is hard. You eat it anyway, and somehow it tastes better than last night's stew. You chew the bread slowly, cautiously, the way one might test unfamiliar terrain for traps. It's hard heroically so, somewhere between edible and potential roof tile. Each bite threatens your molars, but your stomach overrides all objections with a commanding growl. A mug is dropped beside your plate. It sloshes with something warm. The barmaid offers no explanation, no smile, just a warning glare that seems to say, "Drink this or I'll invent a worse option." You obey. It's not ale this time. It's something vaguely herbal, possibly nettle tea, possibly water that used to contain a vegetable. Either way, it's warm and doesn't hurt, so you count it as a win. Around you, the inn is stretching back to life. A boy sweeps the rushes, half-heartedly pushing last night's sins toward a corner. A chicken pecks near the hearth, utterly unbothered by proximity to human conversation. A man attempts to lace up boots while seated upside down on a stool, which may or may not be a strategy. Historians still debate how clean Tudor inns really were. Cleanliness, after all, was a matter of expectation. If you couldn't see the dirt, or if someone recently swept it into a different pile, that counted. The innkeeper appears now, dragging a barrel into view with the sort of grunt that indicates both effort and a long list of regrets. He nods to the barmaid. She nods back. It's a whole novel told in eye contact. You finish the bread. It sits heavily in your stomach like a paperweight on a stack of questionable decisions. Across the room, someone retches into a bucket. No one reacts. You add this to the growing list of things you're apparently meant to accept. Quirky tidbit. Some inns kept communal vomit buckets strategically placed in corners or behind benches. It was considered polite to aim for one less polite to ask where it had last been emptied. The barmaid returns with something new. A strip of cloth slightly damp. You blink. "For your face," she says, tossing it onto the table. You pick it up and wipe your hands, then your cheeks. The cloth smells like lye soap and thyme, which is an upgrade from everything else around you. You nod your thanks. She grunts again her standard currency and moves on to harass a man attempting to nap on two stools pushed together. The door swings open. A blast of cold morning air swirls in, bringing with it the scent of horses' wood smoke and distant sewage. The new arrival stomps snow from his boots. Tall, lean, wrapped in a cloak so patched it could qualify as a tapestry. He scans the room, locks eyes with the innkeeper, says nothing. The innkeeper sighs, again. The man nods, and then, without further ceremony, he takes a seat by the fire, unwraps a bundle, and begins counting coins. No one seems surprised, including you. You sip your tea, not tea. You've been here less than a night, and already the rhythms of this place have etched themselves into your bones. Creak, grunt, slam, mutter, cough. The Tudor Inn Symphony. You glance toward the stairs. Wonder if you left anything behind. Wonder if the second door is still closed. Wonder if Marjorie ever got her duck. Outside, the sky brightens to a dull pewter. The kind of morning where the sun might rise but won't commit. A rooster crows, then changes its mind. You finish your drink. Your boots still don't feel quite right. Your socks squelch slightly, but you're warm, fed, uninjured, and by Tudor standards thriving. The door swings again. This time it's a boy no older than 10, rushing in like a gust of gossip. His tunic flaps with every breath, hair wind-tossed and cheeks red from the cold. He heads straight for the barmaid, thrusts something into her hands, and announces pigs escaped again, knocked over the brewer's cart. They want you, she sighs with the deep weariness of someone who's just learned tomorrow started early. Tell them I'm busy, she mutters. They said bring the broom. I'll bring the broom to them if they keep sending you. The boy grins, already turning to bolt out the door again. The barmaid tosses a rag at his head, misses and glares at no one in particular. You sip the last of your drink and decide it's time for fresh air, or what passes for it in Tudor England. The yard beyond the inn door is a different kind of chaos. Muck, mud, and movement. 2 horses snort in unison as someone hauls sacks from a tilted cart. A woman sloshes water from a bucket onto the icy flagstones, an act of hope, not logic. Somewhere behind the stable, something squeals. Possibly a pig, possibly a child. You step outside. The cold slaps your face like a disapproving ant. You breathe in and regret it. The smells hit in layers. Wet earth manure, hay, smoke-stale urine, and curiously lavender. You look around, no visible source. But the scent lingers like a secret. Historians still argue whether Tudor cities or countryside inns were worse for your nose. At least in the city you could blame other people. Here, everything smells like it knows you by name. You make your way to the edge of the courtyard, boots sucking through mud like they're considering staying behind. A few chickens cluck in your direction with judgmental tones. Then you see the source of the lavender. A woman leans from an upstairs window, shaking out a bundle of linens. She's humming. Every puff of fabric sends another cloud of floral scent into the yard. Her eyes meet yours briefly. She winks, then disappears. You stare up at the spot she vanished from. The scent lingers. So does the wink. You shake it off and continue. Past the stable, you find a narrow path leading to a cluster of outbuildings. A man is splitting firewood with a rhythm that borders on musical. He nods as you pass. His axe gleams. His smile doesn't. You nod back. Quirky aside, some Tudor inns operated mini-economies within their grounds. Brew houses, tanner sheds, even makeshift barber stalls. Your inn, it seems, has a thriving trade in mud and mystery. Behind a leaning fence, you spot a small pen with, yes, a pig, covered in soot, looking furious. It snorts at you like it's memorizing your face for revenge. You walk on. The wind picks up, threading through the timbers with a whistle like an old man's sigh. Your cloak flaps, finally drying at the edges. You reach a wooden bench and sit. It's damp. You sit anyway. The morning continues around you. Voices rise and fall. Hooves clatter. Someone yells about the price of oats. Someone else yells back that it's barely breakfast, and to kindly reconsider their tone, you smile. It's loud. It's filthy. It's cold. And somehow you feel more awake here than you have in weeks. You lean back, watch the clouds shift, and realize you've survived a Tudor inn for an entire night. Mostly, you don't sit long before a bell rings, a dull iron clang from somewhere inside the inn. Not a grand bell. More like someone found a pan and hit it with another pan. Repeatedly, you rise, mud still clinging to your boots, and follow the general lurch of bodies migrating back inside. The smell of something frying drifts from the open doorway. Your stomach perks up like it's heard rumors of better bread. Back inside the inn feels warmer now, not just from the fire, which has finally been restoked, but from the collective human steam of wet cloaks, loud voices, and sizzling grease. The barmaid moves between tables like a general inspecting a battlefield. She slaps down plates without ceremony. Yours arrives with a thud. A wedge of soft cheese, a half handful of boiled peas, and something that might be an egg or might be a dare. You poke it. It jiggles. You eat it anyway. It's fine. Historians still argue over Tudor breakfasts. Some say the average laborer skipped it entirely. Others claim eggs and ale were staples. You're not sure what to believe, except that this egg was either cooked this morning or last Wednesday. The peas are cold, the cheese warm, and yet your body is grateful. You chew quietly, watching the morning clientele. It's a rotating cast now. Night drinkers replaced by early risers, stable boys, elbowing aside scholars. A merchant loudly negotiating a room price while scratching his armpit with a spoon. From a table near the hearth, two travelers discuss road conditions. Muddy, icy, possibly cursed. One claims he saw a cart vanish into a puddle deep enough to swallow a monk. The other nods like this is not surprising. Quirky note: Tudor inns often doubled as bulletin boards for local gossip and travelers' news. You didn't read the news, you overheard it between mouthfuls of questionable peas. The man beside you clears his throat. He's been there the whole time. You're only just noticing. Short, broad, with a beard like an old broom and eyes that say, "I collect debts and hobbies." He taps the table once. You slept in room 3, yeah? You pause, nod. Still got both shoes. You glance down. Affirmative. He nods, satisfied. Good. Just askin'. Last guest woke up with someone else's goat. He drains his mug and stands grunting like a floorboard under pressure. Then he's gone. You're left blinking into your tea. Outside, the wind rattles the shutters. Once, then calms. A chicken hops onto the windowsill, stares at you, and hops away again, like you've failed a test. You finish your meal? The barmaid collects your plate without comment. The egg has vanished. You don't ask where. You rise and stretch, joints creaking louder than expected. Then, without much thought, you start drifting. Not out the door, but back toward the stairs. Your room still smells like damp wood and leftover man. The candle is a stub. Your pack waits loyally on the crooked stool. You grab it, sling it over your shoulder, and pause. Then glance toward the second door. Still closed. Still forbidden. Still tempting. You look left-right. The hallway is empty. You take a step closer. The door is old, warped. The handle scratched by time or fingernails. You place one hand on the wood, and then the barmaid's voice floats up from below. Don't make me come up there. You freeze. Let go. Turn back toward the stairs, descending like a child caught with both hands in the stew pot. She never appears. But somehow you know she knows. You step outside again, and for the first time the air smells cleaner. Or maybe you've just adjusted. Either way, you survived breakfast and resisted temptation, which in Tudor England basically makes you a saint. You linger just beyond the inn's front door, your back against the wall, soaking in the quiet that only follows the morning rush, the clatter of mugs, the groaning of wood, the low murmur of half-slept voices. All of it has dimmed to background music now. What's left is the wind, the occasional clip-clop of hooves, and the rhythmic squeak of a cart axle in serious need of oil. The day has started. You're just now catching up. You step out into the yard again, but this time you take the long way around, past the stacked firewood, the slouching privy, and the small herb garden that's trying its best despite the season. A patch of wilted rosemary leans toward you as if to say, "Yes, we all have our burdens." You stop near the stable. Inside, a boy brushes a mule with the patience of a monk copying scripture. He doesn't look up, doesn't pause. Just brush, step, brush. The mule flicks an ear, but otherwise pretends you don't exist. You keep moving. Your boots squish in all the usual ways. You've stopped hoping they'll dry today. Probably tomorrow, or next harvest. Behind the stable, you find a stone bench nestled between two barrels. It's sheltered from the wind, sun-warmed, and currently unoccupied. So by Tudor standards, it's prime real estate. You sit, breathe, listen, and that's when you notice the bells. Faint at first, tiny metallic tings from beyond the inn yard. Not church bells. These are smaller, closer. They jingle more than ring. You lean forward, trying to catch the rhythm. Then you see it. A peddler's cart, rounding the corner with a theatrical creak. It's piled high with pots. Wooden spoons, ribbons, dried apples, and things that might once have been combs. The peddler, a woman in a deep saffron cloak, calls greetings to the air like it owes her money. Pins, salt, buttons, news from 4 towns over. She doesn't shout. She announces, like a bard with better inventory. You watch as the innkeeper emerges to haggle over cheesecloth. A child runs up and begs for a polished pebble with great conviction. Someone trades a handful of kindling for a single clove. Historians agree. Peddlers were more than sellers. They were couriers of culture, bringing more than goods, stories, recipes, bad advice, occasionally lice. You approach casually, drawn by instinct. The peddler eyes you, then gestures to a wooden tray of oddities. A thimble shaped like a pig, a stick of dried rosemary tied with blue string, a comb carved into the shape of a fox. She lifts one eyebrow as if to say, "Go on." You pick up the fox comb, turn it over. It's smooth-worn at the teeth, probably seen more heads than a bishop's sermon. Still, it fits in your hand, like it belongs there. How much? She names a price that feels more like a suggestion. You pay. She slips it into a cloth pouch and tucks in a tiny packet of herbs for the road. You thank her. She bows deeply, dramatically, then turns to her next victim. You wander away, pouch in hand. The wind picks up again, fluttering your cloak. From behind you, the peddler calls, "Don't brush after dusk. Bad luck." You pause. Half turn. "Really?" She shrugs. "Or good luck." Historians argue. You laugh. Just once. Then tuck the pouch into your coat and continue back around the inn. Near the kitchen window, you catch the scent of something burning, perhaps on purpose, perhaps not. The world feels louder again. Your boots still squish, but there's a comb in your pocket and a story in your step. You survived the night. Now you're surviving the day. Back at the side of the inn, you lean against the timber frame and watch the clouds drag themselves across the sky. It's the kind of gray that looks painted too smooth, too deliberate. You wonder if the sun is on strike, or if it's just hiding behind a better version of this morning somewhere else. The inn door groans open again, and out steps a man carrying a lute. He's young, or trying to be, hair tied back, sleeves rolled high, boots too clean to belong to anyone who's worked in a week. He settles onto a stool just beside the threshold and begins plucking out a slow, uncertain tune. You don't recognize the melody, but you recognize the vibe. It's that specific brand of "I'm an artist, and this inn is my reluctant audience." You take a seat nearby, not close enough to encourage conversation, but just within earshot. He seems content to let his music do the talking. The song picks up a little more confident now. The notes drift on the wind, wrapping around chickens' carts and barmaids like smoke from a candle no one asked to light. Historians still argue whether musicians in Tudor inns were paid performers or just guests with delusions and spare time. Judging by the barmaid's eye roll as she passes him, this one is a regular, unpaid, and unlikely to be encouraged. He shifts keys, starts singing badly. You wince, but no one tells him to stop. The wind shifts, and so does the tune. You pull your cloak tighter. Then from inside the inn comes a clatter. Wooden mugs, raised voices, something breaking. A fight. A toast gone wrong. A game of dice too lucky to be honest. You move toward the sound. Inside, two men square off across a table. One is red in the face and jabbing a finger like it owes him rent. The other leans back, smiling too calmly. Everyone else watches. No one intervenes. And then, just like that, the tension breaks. The red-faced man slaps the table. "Best 3 out of 5, he bellows. The room exhales. Laughter. Coins passed. Bets made. It was just a game. You let out a breath you didn't realize you'd held. You find a seat at the edge of the room again near the fire. It's warmer now, the logs cracking open in slow motion. Someone's hung a kettle on the hook. The steam smells of barley and herbs, tea or soup or something, pretending to be both. You accept a bowl when it's offered. It's thin, salty, a whisper of vegetables, but it's hot. You sip. Nearby, the lute player wanders in and tries to join a conversation about road tolls. No one listens. He starts playing again, quieter this time, perhaps humbled by the inn's acoustic truths. Quirky detail. In some regions, inns posted signs warning no minstrels after dark, which either meant noise restrictions or the landlord just hated music. No one knows for sure. Outside, rain begins to patter on the shutters. You didn't bring a hood. Of course you didn't. You stir the soup. Watch a drip fall from the rafters into someone's mug. They sip it anyway. And for some reason you smile. You've adjusted to the noise, to the smells, to the knowledge that at any moment someone might loudly accuse someone else of goat theft. It's all part of the charm. And somehow it's starting to feel normal. The rain picks up, no longer a polite sprinkle, but a determined sideways slant that smacks against the shutters with wet authority. Inside, bodies shuffle closer to the hearth, creating a haphazard semicircle of steaming cloaks and clacking bowls. The inn smells of damp wool-spiced broth and the unmistakable funk of humanity running low on soap. You remain near the fire, letting its heat work its way past your damp layers. Your knees finally stop aching. Your toes forgive you just barely. One of the men near the flames begins telling a story. It starts with a cartwheel and ends with a ghost. Or maybe the other way around, you lose track somewhere between the haunted pig and the possessed pie. Everyone listens not because it makes sense, but because it almost could. Historians still argue whether Tudor ghost stories were more for entertainment or education. Judging by this one's moral, never eat berries after Michaelmas or the devil might eat you, you suspect entertainment wins. You sip the last of your soup, feeling the warmth settle somewhere under your ribs. The fire crackles again, and then movement from the stairs. You glance up to see the mysterious second room door open. Just a crack, enough for a flash of shadow. A shoe, a pale hand holding something heavy and wrapped in cloth. It closes again. No one else notices, or pretends not to. You open your mouth, but the storyteller is now arm wrestling the innkeeper, and everyone's attention has shifted. So you let the moment pass. Another hour drifts by in patches. One filled with murmurs yawns a drunken debate over whether cows can recognize faces, and the lute player trying a new song called Probably Not in Tune. Quirky tidbit. Some Tudor inns employed tapsters who weren't just bartenders, but also informal referees, storytellers, and if rumors hold, occasional matchmakers. You suspect your barmaid might be all of those plus professional eavesdropper. She passes now with a broom and a death stare, and the crowd clears like she's Moses parting ale-stained benches. You stretch your legs, decide to move, and drift once more toward the window. The rain streaks the warped glass in silvery trails. The view beyond is softened, made watercolor by weathered chimneys curl smoke into the low sky. A cart trundles past, pulled by something vaguely resembling a cow, and two children run barefoot through the muck like it's a game. You remember being that age? Or at least imagining you were. The kind of wild, grubby joy that never asked what time it was. You wrap your cloak tighter. A dog sneezes beneath your bench. You hadn't noticed him there. He stares up at you unimpressed. Tail unmoving. Same, you mutter. You offer a crust of bread. He sniffs. Accepts. You're friends now. The fire pops. Another cup of something is passed your way. You don't ask what's in it. That's a mistake you only make once. Instead, you lean back. Listen to the slow churn of voices, the beat of rain, the shift of a world that hasn't paused, even if you have. You're not home here, but you're not unwelcome. That counts for something. By now, the storm outside has claimed the entire sky. The color of slate and soup bones, the clouds press down so low, you'd swear the rooftops are shouldering a great wet secret. You wonder how the chimneys manage to breathe under all that pressure. Inside the inn, someone snores into their own arm on a table. Another hums tunelessly while carving a turnip into something that might one day resemble a face. The dog under your bench has migrated closer, his head now resting on your boot, like you're emotionally responsible for him. You don't mind. The barmaid walks by with a tray of something suspiciously beige. She sets one bowl down near you without asking. You stare at it. Mutton, she says flatly. You look again. Probably, she adds. You eat it anyway. Quirky detail. Tudor inns reused bowls, often without much more than a rinse between guests. You decide not to think about who licked this one clean before you. The room feels smaller as night crowds the windows again. You shift in your seat? Your cloak is finally dry, mostly, except for the bit near your shoulder that smells faintly of chimney soot and regret. The man with the lute starts plucking again softly this time, mercifully wordless. It's more lullaby than performance. You let your eyes drift half shut, and that's when someone sits down across from you. You blink. A woman in a faded teal gown, hood still, damp eyes sharp beneath her brow. She has the look of someone who's walked far and bartered harder. Her hands are gloveless red from cold but steady. She slides something across the table, wrapped in cloth. Not big, not heavy, just deliberate. You stare at it. Don't open it here. she says softly, then stands and walks away. You look around. No one else seems to have noticed. Or if they have, they're pretending not to, like they've all been warned. You tuck the object into your cloak. Historians still argue whether Tudor inns were hubs of local espionage or just places where secrets like to ferment alongside the ale. Tonight it feels like both. The barmaid catches your eye, raises an eyebrow. You shrug. She doesn't smile, but she also doesn't ask. Later, someone tosses another log onto the fire. Sparks leap upward like startled birds. The wind moans against the walls again, and the second door upstairs opens once more. Just a crack, a creak, a silence. Then it closes. You glance at the cloth-wrapped object inside your cloak. You should sleep. You really should. But your eyes are open. Your mind is turning. And the Tudor night is far from over. The inn grows quieter, not by choice, but by exhaustion. The kind of hush that settles in when everyone has talked just enough, eaten just enough, and is now too full or too cold to bother with anything but staring into the fire. You remain at your seat, the wrapped object nestled inside your cloak like a question you're not ready to ask. Your canine companion snores softly against your foot. A few guests filter out cloaks pulled high faces down. One of them leaves a copper on the table and another leaves behind a spoon, which the barmaid pockets without blinking. Nothing wasted here, not even a utensil's good intentions. You stand and stretch. Your bones respond with a chorus of clicks and creaks. Somewhere in the rafters, a pigeon does the same. You decide to wander. Not outside. The rain still thrashes the earth with the fury of a disappointed saint, but inward, toward the parts of the inn that don't usually make it into songs or stories. The back hallway is dark, lit only by a single candle stub wedged into a niche in the wall. The shadows dance. The walls lean. You pass a door labeled private with a knife scratch so deep it probably predates the actual door. Down another step. Past a half-open pantry where a mountain of cabbages sits in judgment beside a crate of onions. A mouse skitters across the threshold. Neither of you scream. You turn again, and there it is. A narrow wooden door tucked beneath the staircase, its iron handle bent like it once met a very persuasive fist. You hesitate. Then try it. It creaks open with the delicate grace of a belching ox. Inside is a storage room, or at least what's pretending to be one. Barrels stacked against one wall. A row of chipped mugs on a shelf. A pile of blankets that may or may not contain a sleeping person. You don't check. The air smells of cider damp wool and something faintly metallic, like coins left too long in a wet pocket. Historians still debate what these tucked-away rooms were used for. Overflow sleeping, secret meetings, emergency exits for tax dodgers. The answer is likely yes to all of them. You edge deeper into the room and realize you're not alone. A figure sits near the back corner hood, up, face down, hands folded, not moving. You freeze. Then the voice comes low, scratchy, maybe older than the inn itself. You shouldn't be here. Not angry, just tired. You blink. I didn't mean... They never do. Silence. Then the figure shifts. The face tilts. You see only the glint of one eye in the candlelight. You've got something... You reach into your cloak. Pause. But the figure waves a hand. Not now. When it's quiet. When it's really quiet, you nod. Unsure why? Then step back. The figure says nothing more. You close the door behind you. Your own breath louder than your footsteps. Back through the pantry. Past the cabbages. Up the hall. The warmth of the hearth greets you like a lost dog. The dog greets you like a forgotten shoe. Both are welcome. You sit again. The wrapped object still rests in your cloak. Still unopened, but no longer just yours. You sit for a long time back by the fire, but your thoughts aren't warming up with the rest of you. They twist and loop, snagged on the corners of old stone and stranger warnings. The object inside your cloak feels heavier now, not in weight, but in consequence. You haven't moved it, but somehow it's moved you. The room has thinned out again. Only a handful of guests remain. One drinks with the expression of a man bargaining with his own past. Another mutters into his beard as though it talks back. The barmaid sweeps with the vigor of someone who's either chasing away mice or thoughts, possibly both. The dog has returned to the hearth, stretched out like royalty on a rug made of stray hairs and lost crumbs. You sip the dregs of whatever is still in your cup. It's grown cold, possibly stronger, possibly cursed. Time in the Tudor Inn doesn't pass. It slouches. You rise again. This time you move upstairs. The floorboards creak like old knees. You climb slowly, hand trailing along the uneven rail past doors marked with chalked X's scratches, and in one case what appears to be a crude drawing of a fish. You reach your room. Room 3, your familiar slice of splinters and chill. But you don't go in. Instead, you walk to the second door. The forbidden one. It's closed as ever, still worn at the edges, still whispering secrets it has no business keeping. You glance over your shoulder. No one. You press your ear to the door. Nothing. But your fingers move anyway, resting on the handle, testing the chill of the iron, feeling its grooves, like braille from another life. You don't open it. You just stay there, listening, waiting, until a knock. Not from behind the door. From behind you. You spin. It's the old woman from before. The one in teal. She's at the top of the stairs now. Hood down, gray hair twisted into a knot. Eyes bright as glass. She says nothing, just walks past you, slow and deliberate, and places a hand on the forbidden door. You're not ready, she murmurs. Then she walks away. That's it. No explanation, no riddle, no dramatic vanishing act. Just a woman with timing. You wait a moment longer, heart ticking louder than the floorboards, then finally open the door to your own room. Step inside, still dim, still dusty, still faintly smelling of wet timber and centuries of decisions. You light a stub of candle, sit on the stool, and finally unwrap the cloth bundle. Inside, a small wooden box. Carved old plain except for a symbol etched on the lid, a circle intersected by a jagged line. You don't recognize it, but you feel it. You open the box. Inside is a scrap of paper, yellowed, folded thrice. You unfold it and read. When the night leans quietest, find the brick that groans. Behind it, what was lost. But not alone. You stare, and then you hear it. The groan, not of a person, of a wall, just behind your bed. The groan doesn't come again, but you've already turned. Candlelight casts shaky shadows along the wall behind the narrow bed-aged plaster grainy wood, and just there near the floor, something not quite right. A brick, slightly darker, slightly offset, as though it's tired of pretending to fit in. You kneel. The floor creaks in protest. You press your fingers along the edge of the brick. It doesn't move easily. It resists, like it remembers being set in place centuries ago by hands more callous than yours. But persistence beats politeness. With a grunt, it shifts. A sigh of air escapes from the space behind musty cold, and just this side of suspicious. Inside, tucked in a hollow just big enough for your hand. A leather pouch bound in a cord. You pull it free, heart pounding like you're in the middle of someone else's story, which frankly you are. You set the pouch on the stool, untying it slowly. Inside, papers, folded and stained edges curled with time. You hold one up, scrawled handwriting dense and looping. You squint at the script, deciphering it like a secret passed through 10 generations of bad listeners. It reads, "The deed is lost, but not forgotten. One who holds the box must claim it in silence. Room 2. After second bell, you look up. Room 2. The forbidden door." The message stares back like it's been waiting all these years for you to show up. Historians still argue whether Room 2 was a real place or a convenient literary device in old Tudor ghost tales. Tonight, it's both. A wind gust slaps the shutter outside like it's trying to get your attention. You glance at the candle. It flickers uneasy. Your fingers brush the inside of the pouch again. There's more. A coin, old heavy, with a worn emblem you can't quite make out. And beneath it, a key. Small, iron, rusted around the edge but still solid. It's not labeled. It doesn't have to be. You rise slowly, mind swimming with half-formed theories and full-bodied doubts. The second bell. You don't even know what time it is. Time in this inn isn't kept by clocks. It's kept by mood firelight and the occasional yelling of a drunk monk. You wrap the key in the cloth again, Tuck it back into your coat and peer once more at the old brick. It groans again. Or maybe that was you. Quirky fact: some Tudor inns were built on top of older Roman roads, or even shrines. There's always something buried. It's just a matter of when it decides to say hello. You push the brick back into place, feeling oddly guilty. Then sit on the edge of the bed, candle burning, low, papers in your lap. Your mind races. What deed? What silence? And why you? Below the inn murmurs on. A cough, a clatter, a laugh, and somewhere faintly, a bell. One. You look up. One more to go. You don't wait for the second bell. Not really. You try to wait sitting on the edge of your straw-stuffed mattress like a monk contemplating sin, but your legs won't keep still. Your hands drum the edge of the bed. Your thoughts swing like a poorly balanced sign in a gale. You've never been good at waiting, so you rise. The candle's stub now leaks wax like a wounded soldier, and you set it carefully into a cracked dish to catch the drips. You scan the papers again, over and over, as if repetition will rewrite the mystery into clarity. The phrases don't change, though. Still maddening, still incomplete. Claim it in silence, whatever it is. You pocket the key and the coin, wrap the parchment again, and slip it deep into the lining of your coat. Then you cross the room, careful, slow, every creak in the floorboards now suspiciously louder than usual. You pause at your door, listen. The inn has thinned even further. A low murmur from below, one laugh, a mug hitting a surface, then nothing. You ease your door open. The hallway stretches ahead like the throat of a sleeping beast. Dim candlelight flickers against the plaster, casting shapes that shift when you squint. You step into it. Each footfall, muffled, deliberate. You pass room 1, still silent. And then you're there, in front of room 2. That door. The handle cold. You touch it again. No turning back. You insert the key. It fits. Click. The lock sighs open like it was only pretending to hold you out. You don't open it yet. Just breathe. Then second bell. It rings low from the inn's rear tower. 2 drawn-out tolls. Not church bells. Something smaller. A bit off-key. Probably repurposed from a goat bell and some rope. The sound travels up the walls like a chill. Now, you push the door. It opens, dark inside. You don't step in immediately. You wait. Let your eyes adjust. The room is bare. Mostly a narrow bed, a stool, a chest in the corner with iron banding, a small window shuttered tightly with slats just wide enough to show a shard of moonlight cutting the gloom in half. And in that slice of silver, a table with a single object on it, wrapped in waxed cloth. You step forward. It's not fear that guides you. Now it's curiosity, that Tudor demon, more dangerous than any ghost. You reach the table, lift the object. It's heavy. The cloth peels away with effort, and beneath it, a book, bound in leather. No title, just a sigil burned into the cover. That same jagged circle as on the box. You open it. The pages crackle, and inside, names. Rows and rows of names. Dates. Locations, symbols in margins, some crossed out, some underlined, some marked with tiny red inked crosses. You don't recognize any of them until you turn the last page and see your own name, written in a hand you do not know. Beneath it, a blank space, as if awaiting a note or an ending. The air in the room thickens. Your breath curls visibly, and behind you, a floorboard groans. Not yours. Someone else is in the hallway. You freeze. That floorboard wasn't you. There's no mistaking the weight of it. The slow, sinking groan of someone trying to step quietly, but failing. The kind of sound that only happens when someone's trying too hard not to be heard. You stay still. The book still open in your hands. Your name still glaring up from the final page, like it's judging your life choices. You listen. Another creak. Closer this time. Then silence. Whoever it is, they've stopped. Maybe listening back. Maybe deciding. Maybe raising a hand toward the handle of room 2. You blow out the candle. The room plunges into darkness. Only the thin sliver of moonlight from the shuttered window remains just enough to see shapes, barely enough to define them. You move to the door, gently, carefully press your ear against the thick timber. Nothing. No breathing, no footsteps. You open the door just a crack. Peer out. The hallway is empty, or pretending to be. You step out. The air is colder here, like the passage is holding its breath. You walk slowly, passing your own room again, then glancing back toward the stairwell. Still nothing. Historians still argue whether secret societies used inns for passing messages, or whether that idea was just a romantic invention of bored writers. Tonight, you're not sure it matters. You head downstairs. Quiet as a dropped feather, the common room has mostly emptied. A lone man snoozes at the bar, hat tipped over his face, one foot twitching like it's dreaming of faster shoes. The barmaid is nowhere in sight. You slide past the hearth, toward the back hallway. You don't know what you're looking for now. Maybe the old woman in teal. Maybe the figure in the cellar. Maybe the inn itself will tell you if you ask the right wall in the right mood. You reach the pantry again. The scent of onions is stronger than usual. Either someone's preparing for tomorrow's stew, or trying to mask something worse. You step past the cabbages, past the shelves, toward the same narrow door, the one under the stairs. You try the handle. It's unlocked. You push it open again. Same barrels, same shelf of mugs, same folded blanket pile that may still contain a sleeper or a very quiet ghost. But the figure from before is gone. You step in, shut the door behind you. It's darker this time. Your candle stub has long since cooled into a blob of wax. You move by feel, to the back corner where the figure once sat, and you find a mark drawn on the wall in charcoal. The jagged circle sigil. Beneath it, 3 words. Leave before dawn. You stare. A sound behind you. You turn, but it's only the wind in the cracks. You're not sure how long you stand there, thinking, weighing, guessing. But when you emerge again into the hallway, the floor feels colder than before. You're no longer certain this place is just an inn. You return to the main hall, stepping into the warmth like a traveler pulled from fog. The fire's nothing more than red coals now, a soft glow nestled among charred logs. The shadows it casts are slower, deeper, less like flickering light, more like memory. The room is nearly empty. Only the dog remains curled into a shape that defies bone structure, snoring with the conviction of the truly unconcerned. The man at the bar is gone. The mugs have been cleared. The table's wiped. You don't remember hearing anyone clean. You sit again, not out of comfort, but because your legs demand stillness. The book is still in your coat. The coin still in your pocket. The paper with your name still folded with the weight of intent. And that warning, leave before dawn. You check the windows. Still black outside. Still raining. You're not even sure when dawn is anymore. This Tudor night has lasted 3 eternities already. A door creaks behind the bar. The barmaid emerges, not startled to see you, not surprised. She carries a kettle that probably predates the Reformation. She pours water into a chipped mug and slides it across the table. Steeped chamomile and something else. For nerves, she says. You nod. What's the something else? She doesn't answer. You sip anyway. The warmth creeps in slowly like a cat deciding whether or not to trust you. She sits across from you. No apron now, just her dress and tired eyes. And hands those innkeeper's hands, thick-knuckled, scarred, but steady. You found room 2, she says. Not a question. You nod again. And the book. Another nod. She leans in slightly. Then it's your turn. Silence. I don't even know what it is, you say finally. No one does. That's the point. She reaches into her pocket, pulls out a small cloth bundle, identical to the one you received earlier. She places it on the table. This belonged to the last one. The last what? She doesn't answer. Instead, she stands. Don't wait too long. Until dawn. She smiles faintly. No, until you convince yourself you're not part of it. That's when it slips away. She disappears again behind the bar. You're left with the mug, the book, and the growing suspicion that you're not just in a story, you might have inherited it. You unwrap the new cloth. Inside, a second key and a stone, small round carved with a symbol different from the others. You set it beside the coin. It hums faintly when they touch. You blink, then separate them. The sound stops. You look toward the hearth, and for a brief moment, you swear you see someone sitting in the chair you just left. Not the dog. A person? Then it's gone. The chair is empty. The dog hasn't moved. You sip the rest of your drink. It's cold now, but your hands don't shake anymore. You don't go back upstairs. Not yet. Instead, you stay by the hearth watching the last embers pulse like heartbeats, too tired to keep rhythm. The shadows have stilled into permanence. Even the dog, ever faithful, snores deeper as if guarding you in sleep from questions you're still not ready to ask aloud. You lay the coin and the stone on the table side by side. They look like nothing, just old things. But together, they seem to make the table lean slightly toward their weight. You place your palm over them. A pulse, or a trick of nerves. You remove your hand. Still there. Tudor inns were more than lodgings. They were crossroads. Not just of roads and travelers, but of time power stories. Some say certain rooms keep memories the way pewter holds heat. Slowly, evenly, long after the fire is out. Historians still argue whether inns like this one were ever deliberately built along ley lines. But then again, those historians probably never stayed in room 2. You unwrap the new key. It's older than the first, thinner, worn smooth by countless fingers that might have reached for the same secrets as you. You glance at the book again. The last page, your name is now joined by one new line in faint ink. She knows now. You didn't write it, and you were holding the book the whole time. You close it slowly, wrap it, place it in your bag, then look back at the barmaid's bundle. The stone you now notice is warm, but only when placed near the second key. You bring them close again. This time the hum is stronger, like wind behind a door that isn't quite shut. You stand. The night has deepened beyond midnight. It's the hour when even ghosts get bored. You head for the back hallway again. The same pantry, the same cabbages, but now your eyes find something new. A gap behind a stack of sacks, barely visible unless you're looking for it. You push the sacks aside. There it is. A hatch, wooden, iron ring in the center, unlabeled, untouched. You press the key to the iron ring. Not into a lock, just touch it. It clicks. The hatch shifts open a finger's width. A draft rushes up. Cool. Dry. Smelling faintly of old stone ink and time. You glance once more behind you. No footsteps. No voices. Just the thudding stillness of decision. You take the coin, the stone, the key, the book, and descend. The steps are narrow, worn smooth by centuries of secrets. No torch. Only the light from above, and then darkness. Not oppressive, just quiet. The kind of quiet that feels deliberate, like it's listening. You keep walking, until your foot finds a flat floor. You're underground, or under something else. The air here tastes like parchment. Ahead, the sound of trickling water, and beyond that, a door, a third one. You place your hand on the wood. It's warm, and carved with a symbol. Not one, you know, not yet. You trace the carving with your fingers, an unfamiliar sigil circular, but incomplete, like someone began a symbol and lost courage halfway through. The door beneath your hand hums faintly like the stone and coin did earlier, a kind of resonance that isn't sound so much as recognition. The second key weighs heavily in your palm. You press it gently into the iron lock, not expecting it to fit. It does. It turns with a click that echoes like footsteps in a cathedral. The door opens inward with surprising ease, and beyond it, a room, stone walls smoother than the rest of the inn. No moisture, no moss, no rot. Shelves line the perimeter, carved directly into the walls. And on those shelves, objects, dozens of them, books, boxes, scrolls, cups, daggers, masks. Some glitter faintly in the low light. Others seem to absorb it like their secrets are hungry. In the center of the room, a stone table, and on it, a map. You approach slowly. The map isn't of the world. It's not even of England. It's a drawing of this inn, floor by floor, room by room. Even this underground chamber is marked. Each room is labeled not with numbers, but with names. And not just names. Stories. Eleanor, who disappeared. Father Wilkes and the third ledger. Marion's cradle never rocked. Room 2. Chosen in silence. You find your name again. At the edge. Not a room. A path. Yours. Marked in red ink. Leading to where you stand now. It ends at the stone table. Next to your name, a symbol, the same jagged circle, then a blank line. You're expected to write something. You look around for a quill, nothing, but on the wall etched into the stone. He who claims the story must finish it. You pull out the book from your coat. The page with your name still waits empty beneath it. A breeze tickles the back of your neck, even though no air should move this deep underground. You place the book on the stone, then the coin, then the stone. The table hums again. A line begins to form beneath your name, scratching itself into the paper without ink, without hand. You stare as the words etch slowly, still listening, then stop. The room doesn't shift. It doesn't vanish. But something inside you does, like a hinge turning, a curtain parting. Not clarity exactly, but place. You belong to the story now, and it to you. You walk slowly back toward the door, but the map stays in your mind, especially that last note beneath the spiral stairs. One leaves with memory, one leaves with burden, one stays. Historians still argue whether ancient inns were built over something sacred or profane. No one agrees. But you think maybe both are true. You lock the door behind you and ascend the stairs. You rise from the hidden stairwell like a diver breaking the surface, gasping not for air, but for answers that won't come yet. The pantry greets you with its usual smells, onion, yeast, root vegetables. But something has shifted. The air feels emptier, as if whatever watched you descend is now watching something or someone else. You slide the hatch closed. It seals with a hush that feels final, like a page turned but not bookmarked. When you return to the common room, you're not surprised to find it entirely deserted. The fire is out. The chairs have been pushed in. Even the snoring dog is gone. You wonder if it was ever real? You sit at the table where the barmaid served you tea. The mug is still there, half full cold. You sip it anyway. It tastes like dried flowers and dust and the memory of sleep. The second key, the coin, the stone. These now rest in your pocket like parts of a puzzle you're only beginning to see. But your hands go to the book. Always the book. You open it again. The last page has changed. Now it reads, "The watcher returns. Room 9 will open." Room 9. You don't remember seeing a room 9. You're pretty sure the inn only went up to 7. But this is a Tudor inn. Numbers here are suggestions. You take the stairs again. The hallway greets you like a crooked smile. Your room is still shut. Room 2, of course, still waits behind its mystery. But farther down past the linen closet, past the warped beams, there's now a door you don't remember. Unmarked. You check both keys. Neither fits. You try the handle. It opens anyway. Inside. Warmth. But not from fire. From light. Lanterns line the walls. Not candles. Oil lamps. Their glow golden, soft humming like bees in a slow conversation. The room is round. The ceiling high-arched with wood in a pattern that mimics a chapel. And on the far side, another table, another book, and a chair already pulled out. You don't hesitate. You sit. The book opens itself. Inside are pages filled not with names, but places. You recognize none of them until the last page. There, written in a delicate but modern hand, you reading this, you have walked the path. You have opened what others left closed. You now decide. Beneath it, 2 boxes. Stay. Leave. There is no pen, but you feel your hand lowering toward the page anyway. The air thickens again. Not dangerous. Not demanding. Just waiting. You hover over the options. A second passes, then a third, and then a knock. At the door. Once. Twice. Then silence. You don't move at first. The knock hasn't come again. No hurried footsteps follow. No voice. No threat. Just that sound, 2 quick raps like a code without a key. You stare at the page in the book. Stay. Leave. Neither box is checked. Your hand hovers. A knock like that in Tudor England could have meant anything. Another traveler the night watch a message, a warning, or worse, an invitation. Historians still argue whether coded knocks were used between secret guild members, or if that's just a romantic myth cooked up centuries later. But tonight, the weight of those 2 raps feels very real. You stand. The room seems to sigh as you push the chair back. The lamps continue to burn with their golden glow, unfazed by your hesitation. You approach the door, carefully open it. Nothing there, just the hallway now colder, emptier, as if the knock had traveled without a hand behind it. You look both directions. To your right, the linen closet. To your left, the stairwell. You close the door again, not locked but shut. When you return to the table, the book's pages have flipped. Now there are no checkboxes, just one sentence. The story doesn't stop, but your part might. A small drawer slides open under the table. Inside, a third key. This one is heavier, ornate, filigree edging like it was forged, not just to unlock, but to impress. Beneath the key, a folded scrap of linen. You lift it. A message is stitched into the fabric in tiny red thread. What you carry leaves with you. What you leave someone finds. You take both items. Stand again. The air around you thickens almost with expectation, as if even the lamps are leaning in. You exit room 9, back into the hall, and you notice something odd. The other doors, they're gone. Where there were 7, maybe 8, before there is now only 1 beside you. Room 9. The others are simply wall. You spin slowly back toward the stairs. Still there, still crooked and creaking. You descend again. The common room has changed too, brighter now as if morning were breaking, though you swear the windows still show black. The fire is roaring, and at one table sits the barmaid, her dress now cleaner, hair braided. A copper pin at her collar you didn't notice before. She waves you over. You walk slowly, still holding the book, still feeling the weight of the new key in your pocket. You sit. She doesn't smile, but there's no coldness, just a kind of knowing. You've walked most of it, she says. You nod. There's one more thing. She slides something across the table, a piece of old mirror, small, cracked, silver backing fading at the edges. You stare at your reflection, and for a brief moment, you don't see yourself. You see the hallway, not now, but before, full of doors, of guests, of movement, and in the center, you, not standing, not walking, but sitting, with the book, like you've always been here. You blink, and your face returns. Same eyes, but something behind them is different. The barmaid stands. It's almost dawn, she says. You rise with her, and for the first time you realize you don't know where the front door of this inn even is. The front door. You think about it now, really think, have you seen it? You remember arriving, rain on your cloak, mud in the courtyard, a wooden arch, a latch, but a door. No face greeted you, no bell was rung. You were just here, standing inside. And now, you scan the common room slowly. Fire, empty mugs, that same sagging beam above the hearth, but no door, not a main one, not an obvious exit. You step toward where logic says it should be opposite the hearth, across from the stairs, the space where a front door should live, but there's only a wall, plastered, painted with faded patterns of vines and stars. No hinges, no latch, no frame, just wall. You run your fingers along the plaster. It's cool to the touch, but something behind it gives just slightly, as if there's something hollow on the other side. You knock. It thuds back deep and distant. You turn to the barmaid. She's no longer there. Her chair is empty. The fire still burns, but the light now flickers in a strange rhythm, almost like a heartbeat that's not your own. You turn again. The wall is different now. There's a mark, scratched into the plaster like a fingernail dragged through soft bread. The same jagged circle, and below it, a word you know wasn't there before. Choose. Historians still argue whether Tudor inns were designed to disorient the senses, a kind of spiritual labyrinth intended to slow the body and heighten the soul. Some call that superstition. Others say those blueprints were deliberate, mimicking ancient pilgrimage stations. But whether by intention or decay, this inn feels like it exists outside time. You take the ornate third key from your pocket, hold it against the wall. Nothing. You place the coin beside it. Still nothing. You touch the coin and the stone together. The wall pulses. Just once. Then a crack forms. A line in the plaster thin as a hair stretching from the top of the jagged circle to the floor. A vertical seam. You press your fingers to it, and the wall exhales. A gust, not wind, but air long stale and old with stories. The plaster splits, not apart but inward, folding like a paper hinge, revealing a hallway, different from the rest, stone-lined, dry, lit by torches that flicker in complete silence. You step through. The hallway closes behind you. No Sam, no exit. Only forward. The floor beneath your feet is not wooden now. It's flagstone, etched with faint glyphs that look more Roman than Tudor. You walk slowly, each step echoing back louder than the last. You glance behind you. Just wall, just always wall. You reach a chamber, circular, tall. A domed ceiling with a single hole at the top, letting in a shaft of moonlight that looks far too bright to be real. In the center, a pedestal, and on it, your bag. The one you brought in? The same satchel scuffed at the strap, ink-stained at the bottom corner. It's been placed perfectly lovingly. Inside you already know. The book, the keys, the coin, the stone, and something else, something you didn't pack. You approach and open it. Inside, a letter, sealed with wax in the shape of the jagged circle, and written across the front, to whoever comes next. Word count, Echen awaiting continue. You said, continue. ChatGPT said, section 27. You hesitate. Your name is nowhere on the envelope, yet it feels meant for you, like a glove left behind that just happens to fit your hand. The wax seal is soft-aged, already cracked along one edge. You don't break it. Not yet. You stare at it in your palm. To whoever comes next. Who was before? You try to recall the names from the map below the inn, the ones etched in fading ink. Eleanor, Father Wilkes, Marion, the girl with the cradle that never rocked. Did they leave notes like this? Or were they just echoes you walked through? You peel the seal. The parchment inside is thick, weighty. The ink smells faintly of iron and something floral, lavender maybe. You read, to whoever comes next. If you're reading this, you've followed the same path. Perhaps not the same steps, we all start differently, but the same pull, the same unease, the same curiosity that grows teeth when ignored. I don't know what you've found. I don't know what you've opened, but I do know this. The inn doesn't forget. You are part of it now, not trapped, not cursed, just recorded. Like scent in wool, like fingerprints in old wax. You don't owe anyone an explanation, but you do owe yourself a decision. Some stay, some forget, some are remembered. Don't leave empty-handed. Don't stay hollow. Burn this letter after reading. You read it twice, 3 times. It doesn't change. The handwriting is neat, hurried in places, almost smudged by a tear in the corner. You can't tell if it was written recently or centuries ago. Somehow it feels like both. You fold it carefully. There's no fire in this chamber, only that impossible moonlight from the hole in the ceiling. But beside the pedestal, a small iron brazier sits cold and empty, until you place the letter in it. Then a spark flares to life. No flint, no tinder, just will. The paper curls inward. The wax seal liquefies, and the words vanish. You watch until only ash remains. Then you close your bag, sling it over your shoulder. The chamber gives no instruction, no arrow, no whispered spell. But there is a second door, simple, wood, iron handle. You step toward it. It opens with a breath. On the other side, stairs, upward, narrow, lit by wall sconces that flicker softly. You climb. The air warms again. Familiar scents drift in mutton stew, wet wood, lavender, and hay. And behind those, something baking. Bread. You keep climbing. The stone shifts to wood beneath your feet. The walls tighten. And then, you're back. Not at the common room, but in room 2. Your bed is still mussed. The candle stub still flickers beside the wash basin. But everything feels changed, as if the room waited for your return, not your discovery. The window glows faintly. Light is coming. Maybe dawn, maybe not, but something like it. You remove your boots, set your bag on the floor, and sit on the bed. The mattress sighs beneath you, a sound like release, like stories end. And yet, you're still holding the ornate third key. Its weight says otherwise. You lie back slowly, boots off bag beside the bed, third key still cradled in your palm, like a question that hasn't figured out how to be asked yet. The candle sputters once, then steadies. Its small flame flickers against the slanted ceiling beams, throwing shadows that sway like the branches of an ancient tree. Or the thoughts still rustling in your head. Outside, the world remains mute. No birdsong, no hooves in the street, not even the whisper of wind. Just breath. Yours. The inn's? Maybe both. You hold the key up toward the ceiling. It catches the candlelight strangely. Not a reflection exactly, but a refraction, as if the metal's remembering another flame in another time. You lower it and study the etchings again. Along the shaft, a series of notches, some sharp, some soft. A pattern you now recognize from the pedestal map in the chamber below. The path they traced. Your path. Historians still argue whether physical objects in old inns held encoded symbols, part practical, part talismanic. Some claim the cut of a key was less about the door and more about who held it. No one agrees, of course. But then again, few have seen what you've seen. You rise again, slowly. The candles burned low, nearly down to its final puddle. You move to the window. Dawn has not come. And yet, the sky has changed. Where there should be stars, you see soft white fog rising over the village rooftops, curling like steam from 100 hidden kettles. You unlatch the shutters and push them gently. The hinges creak in protest as if unsure whether they want to let you go. The scent hits first baking bread, wet thatch morning wood smoke, and that curious hint of beeswax and ink. The inn is still, but the world beyond it is waking. You spot a man walking slowly past the green, a lantern swinging in his hand. He pauses, looks at the inn, looks at your window, and nods. Not to call you, not to summon, just acknowledgement. Then he walks on, and you close the shutters. You sit at the edge of the bed, the ornate key warm in your hand, and you realize something. You've never asked what this key opens. You've only assumed another door, a chamber, a secret. But what if it's none of those? What if it's for someone else? Or for you, but not here. Not now. You stand again. There's one thing left, one more place unsearched. You cross to the wardrobe. The same one you opened your first night, finding only a wool coat and a cracked mirror. You open it again. The mirror is gone. The coat remains, but behind it, a box. Small, wooden, velvet lining. You lift it. The top opens with a sigh. Inside, a space the exact shape and size of the ornate key. You place it inside. It clicks gently into place. Nothing unlocks. Nothing shifts. But for the first time, the key is still, as if it's home. You close the box, set it back on the shelf, then take a deep breath, and return to the bed. You pull the blanket up, just enough, and close your eyes. The moment your eyes shut, you don't sleep. Not immediately. There's something in the stillness of the room now, an alertness, like a held breath waiting to be exhaled. The kind you feel on the edge of a storm or in the final page of a book, when the last sentence has yet to settle. The blanket is heavy but comforting, woven thick the way Tudor inns favored for trapping warmth. Beneath it, the mattress conforms around your form, as if remembering every traveler who lay here before. You listen, no footsteps, no clock, no call of an owl or crow, just the creak of the old beams, slow, restful. Your hand rests against your stomach, the weight of the book no longer there. It's still in your bag, yes, but it no longer feels like it is. Somehow it's become a part of this room. Like the walls absorbed its presence, like the story it contained finished itself when you set the key in its final place. You wonder, did you pass the test? Was there a test? Or was this always just observation? You shift your head slightly on the pillow. The scent rises again. Dried lavender iron from old hinges, the ever-present beeswax from the candles. And beneath it all, the warm dust smell of old paper and in walls soaked in centuries of quiet. Historians still argue whether travelers in Tudor times experienced lucid dreams more frequently due to the overwhelming sensory environment's unventilated spaces, constant animal smells, fermented air, smoldering herbs. You don't know about the others, but you're dreaming before you're dreaming. You see flashes of the map etched in the table, of names, of stories, of lives. They don't rush past. They walk, parade-like, Eleanor's pale hand reaching for the cradle, Father Wilkes scribbling furiously in candlelight, the barmaid Young now running her fingers along a red-stitched linen cloth. All of them nod at you, not in farewell, but in continuation, one more thread stitched into the long quilt of the inn. And then, silence, deep, clean silence. Your breath slows. You feel your limbs dissolve into the mattress. The ceiling above is no longer beams, but stars just barely visible behind your eyelids. You remember the first smell you noticed when you entered this inn. Smoke. No, honey. That same sweetness now rises in the back of your throat, like sleep is syrup and you're sinking into it. Your dreams begin quietly. No plot, no monsters, just warmth. A walk through soft rain. The creak of stairs. The weight of a blanket. You see the inn from above as if your mind were drifting just slightly higher than your body, like an ember caught in an updraft. And you wonder, how many others slept like this? How many never left? How many never wanted to? Your eyes don't open again. Not tonight. The candle dies sometime in the early hour you can't name. Its final curl of smoke dances through the stale warmth of the room before dissolving into nothing. You sleep through it. The wax has melted flat, pooled into a perfect circle like the jagged symbol that followed you all the way here. Outside, the fog has lifted. Just a little, enough that light, true morning light, presses softly against the shuttered window. It doesn't demand your attention. It simply arrives, like bread rising in a hearth oven, quiet, inevitable, golden. Inside, everything is still. The wardrobe remains closed. The box inside still holds the key. Your bag is where you left it with the second key, and the coin and the stone tucked safely inside. You don't stir, not even when the inn's door finally appears. Because yes, there is a door now, set into the wall where there was none. Rough oak, iron hinges, a latch curved like a smile that's kept too many secrets. It opens inward slow, just a little, and a breeze rolls in carrying scent after scent in tender succession. Wet thatch, morning dew, the faint bitterness of old ink, the citrus tang of rosemary crushed underfoot, and the rich yeast of something baking just for you. There's laughter outside, low kind, the clink of mugs, the cough of a cart driver. You never meet their faces. You don't have to, because this story isn't about them. It's about you. You who came to the inn out of curiosity or accident or something harder to name. You who walked the creaking floors and touched old wood and smelled forgotten herbs and listened when most would have hurried through. You who stayed when the air turned strange. Who followed the map. Who remembered the cradle that never rocked. And you, now who sleep so deeply that even the inn exhales in relief. The room has grown warmer again. The sunlight moves across the floorboards inch by inch, tracing time the way monks used to with patience and reverence, and no small amount of dust. The hallway is quiet. The inn is quiet. But the walls remember you, and somewhere far below under floor and stone and story, a fresh mark carves itself into the map. Just one line, just one name, and the circle completes. The story's over. End of script. Sweet dreams.